Okay, my name is PC Paul Davis. I'm the Young Persons Officer for the Dudley Borough. So that means my job, my main role is to engage with young people. And what do I do to do that? Well, I go into schools, I go into colleges, I deal with scouts, anywhere where there's young people, children's homes, people in care. So I engage with them. And I talk about different subjects like drug use, personal safety, stop and search with the police. I talk about the police and all sorts of things. One of our big issues at the moment is CSE and e-safety. So I do a lot of inputs with regard to that. And it's all about trust and confidence. Okay, there's a lot of myths about the police and the way we work. But if I engage with the young people correctly, which I think I do, then it breaks down those myths.
And on the whole, do you say the young people are quite receptive to what you're talking about?
Very, very receptive. I work a lot with the colleges, and the colleges have been probably since April of this year. I've probably spoken to about 1,800 young people in class sizes of about 20 to 30. So not big groups, but 1,800, 1,600 young people is a lot of people to get through.
And obviously, apart from trust and confidence, what are the other important issues that you try to address when you do talk to young people? Like, why is it important that you're getting out to them?
Well, it's important that we're on their side. The police are on their side. You know, one of my first questions before I start any sort of session is, has anyone got any negative views of the police? And, you know, a small percentage of the group put their hands up for these young people, but I don't let them just put their hands up and move away. I ask why they've got that problem with the
challenging
police.
the perceptions.
I challenge it, and then we explain and explore the reasons behind it. And more often than not, those young people have never had interaction with the police. It's things they've heard, and so we try and dispel those myths.
Well, if there's any young people watching this now, where can they find out some more information about the police and what you guys are about? Well, not what you're about, obviously, but...
Yeah, well, if you go onto the West Midlands website, there's all sorts of different pages on that. You can contact me at Brolhill Police Station, and my email address is paul.davis@west-midlands.pnn.police.uk, and I deal with all young people.
Brilliant, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
So you'd like to just quickly introduce yourself?
I'm Ruth Oding. I'm the Tobacco Programme Manager for Dudley Borough Council, and I work in Office of Public Health.
And what is it that you guys are doing here today?
Well, today we're, first of all, Public Health, we work in partnership with the CCG to join up services for young people. So that's why, part of the work bringing everything together. But my particular role is that we're running a Kickash workshop, because Kickash is one of our young people's tobacco education programs, which has got lots of different strands. But basically, what we try and do is try and talk to young people, for them to tell us about what we need to do to address smoking. And we're looking at it from lots of different ways. What can we do to try and prevent young people from starting to smoke, because that's a no-brainer. And they developed a programme called, what their name called The Resistance. And that goes into secondary schools every year, year 7s, and that goes around all the schools to just try and discourage kids from starting to smoke initially. Obviously, some kids are going to start smoking. I think in Dudley, our 15-year-olds, we've got about 6-7% of them smoking.
Right.
So we know we can't stop it all. But what we do is we offer a specific stop smoking service in schools, and it's run by a company called Moo Moo. And they go into schools, do a bit of fun activity, getting kids to think about smoking, what it does to them, how much money they spend, what else they could do with that money. Look at it from lots of different reasons, because people smoke for lots of different reasons, and then they try and help them stop smoking.
And so, what's the minimum age you're going through at the moment? Is it 13 to 14, or is it more like 15 to 16? Would you say?
No, I would say it's more 12 upwards.
Yeah, okay.
Because kids start smoking at 12. Most kids come into secondary school not smoking, and then obviously they take a lot. That's when they're starting to take risks. Experiment.
Peer pressure, stuff like that.
Turning, that transition into adulthood. They get a bit braver.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. So we're trying to discourage them from starting initially and then supporting them if they do. And also, the whole point of Kick Ash is for young kids to develop some smoke-free messages, and they communicate that to their other young people because it comes best from them rather than coming from an old fuddy-duddy.
Sort of like the trickle-down effect of information, basically.
Yeah, if it comes from young people to young people, it's got far more clout, you know.
So obviously you mentioned going to schools. Is there any other things that you guys particularly do, or?
Yeah, we do lots of different. We take a kind of an arts-based approach, a creative approach, because if kids are involved in that, then it's not just, you know, somebody talking to them or telling them about smoking. It's about engaging them in different activities, and the creative side of it, I think, really appeals to some of our kids. And they've been, you know, a lot of them have been engaged in doing some stuff outside of schools in any youth setting, and encouraged to do. They've done. They've developed some songs, dance. Some of them have even learned new skills, you know, using cameras, making mini films, and the collective, they put it all onto the Kick Ash website, and that happens every year with lots of different groups, because obviously they move on and we work with different groups. So, but there's a lot more that we could do. We've got to keep going, because obviously the tobacco industry are a very powerful company. Lots of companies, and they try and target young people as well. So we've got to kind of keep mobilising our young people to kind of work against that.
And if you're a young person watching this who had started smoking and wanted to try and, you know, like you say, kick the habit, what would you suggest their best way of doing that would be? What were the avenues that they should sort of look at going down? Well,
they could go onto the Kick Ash website and they just Google Kick Ash Dudley, and there's a link there to help them stop smoking. Or there's the www.dudleystopsmoking website as well. And again, there's a link there about how young people can get help to stop smoking. There's lots of, they can go to the pharmacy, or they can get help in schools, or they can, you know, just talk to their school nurse as well. So there's lots of different avenues open, and it depends how they want to access that support. And they can use nicotine replacement therapy as well if it's appropriate. So we can support them with that.
Brilliant. Okay, good stuff. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, my name's Ruth Hill, and we work for Dudley Healthy Schools, and my role is obesity prevention coordinator. So we put lots of different initiatives into both primary schools and secondary schools across Dudley, looking at healthy eating and physical activity. So here today we're sort of showing kids how they can get a healthy lunch without too much effort, instead of just eating all the rubbish. And also up here we've got some chocolate and courgette cakes and chocolate and beetroot cakes. So just trying to get vegetables and fruits and vegetables into foods, sort of hiding them really, and helps contribute towards their 5-day. Okay.
What kind of barriers do you think young people have when it comes to healthy eating and things like that?
It's really tricky. I think there's so many barriers. One thing is the powers of marketing. People, supermarkets and fast food providers are so good at making their foods much more enticing. It's cheap and it's so easily available any time, day or night really.
Yeah.
And kids get sucked into it. And also their families. If we can, it's not so much the children sometimes, it's getting the messages home to the parents, making sure that they look at the diet and actually realise that we need to do it now for the children to protect them for the future.
My name's Kate, and I'm a volunteer coordinator at a project called Switch, which is a young person's drug and alcohol project based in Dudley. We support young people with any kind of drug and alcohol issues up to the age of 18.
And what are some of the issues that you're facing, particularly in the Dudley area, like sort of the demographic at the moment?
The issues in Dudley, substance use-wise, are pretty typical of the national issues actually. So the predominant substances that young people are using at the moment are cannabis and alcohol. So the majority of young people who come to us come for support for those substances. But we also see young people who want support with other things like MCAT, cocaine, legal highs. We don't have any, or we perhaps have about one injecting heroin user.
Right, okay.
But other than that, it's
more the recreational side of it?
Sometimes recreational, sometimes more entrenched use.
Right, okay.
But, whereas, say, 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, the majority of our client group would have been heroin users, sorry, not injecting heroin users. and would have needed alternative prescribing for their drug use. We don't see those types of clients now, so the interventions tend to be shorter, and we do some brief interventions with young people as well.
I was going to say, what about preventative measures to sort of stop that addiction from occurring? What do you personally see?
I mean, the majority of drugs that young people are using aren't actually physically addictive anyway. They might be psychologically addictive, but they're not physically addictive. And what interventions we tend to use are looking at the young person's behaviour and how the substance use affects the way that they behave. And that's what we're interested in. Really.
So like a cognitive behaviour therapy?
Yeah, we do cognitive behaviour therapy. We also do motivational interviewing for young people who aren't quite sure whether they want any support or not. And we do solution-focused therapy as well with young people. So what we do is we look at the substances that they're using, and we look at the individual and how it's affecting them, and then we target the work that we do with them around that particular need. So we'll have an intervention package that's individual to that person.
And from your personal experience, like, what can be done to improve the situation? Do you think it's funding? Do you think that there needs to be more from the government, from the council? I mean, what personally do you think will improve the situation, decrease these issues of people getting abusing substances, basically?
It's a difficult one to say. I mean, I think in Dudley we're fortunate that we've got this young person service, and we're able to support young people in the Dudley Borough, and we've got manageable caseloads at the moment to enable us to do that. I think that the work in schools maybe could focus more on substance misuse, although I might be being unfair in saying that, because some schools I'm sure are doing some really good quality work.
More school workshops.
But maybe preventative kind of work in schools. Some of the young people who've come here today are fascinated by things like the beer goggles and interactive kind of stuff, which leaves them with an impact really. They'll go away and remember how that felt. And I haven't experienced anything like that in school yet, and we're talking about years 7, 8 and 9. I know it's difficult to target it just at the right age, but some of the young people here today seem quite naive about drug use, and you know, one or two of them, it obviously resonates with them, but most of them say they don't know anybody who uses substances, and they seem quite innocent in that response. I don't think they're just saying it. So maybe more targeting in schools, I think. What we do in our service is that we will do brief interventions for somebody who doesn't want anything long term. We will do harm reduction. So we do look at what the young person is saying, and if they're saying that they want to continue doing what they're doing and they don't want to make any changes, then we use that as a starting point, and we just say, well, we accept that they're doing what they're doing, but we help them, or try to help them to do it more safely, and that's our start point. If we can then build up some engagement with them, because they understand we're not trying to lecture them or preach to them, then we can work on that engagement and maybe encourage them to make changes. But if all they want to do is continue doing what they're doing, then we will just make sure that they're doing it more safely.
And do you get any reformed people coming in and giving lectures as well, or giving seminars? Have you managed to get that yet? Like
to our client group, not within our service, not within the premises, no. But a lot of the work that we do takes place off-site. We've got a project in the town centre, and we see people there, but we also see people in schools and colleges or home visits, because fortunately some of the young people who come to our service are engaged in employment or educational training. So instead of them coming to us, we will go to them at a place that's convenient for them.
And you think that's important?
I think that's really important, having a flexible service rather than expecting people to come to a particular location. I think that's been a success of our service, and it's been a change over the years. Maybe 12 years ago we would have been operating differently, and most people would come to us. Now a large proportion of them, we go out to them.